Hello, you're watching Sky News. We're taking a look at tomorrow's newspapers. Now, The Telegraph, start off this half, and a story about Oxbridge, students not being encouraged.
I taught French literature at Oxford, and I agree that some state school pupils were often intimidated by the traditional atmosphere and the sense of history. And even I, as a teacher, was often intimidated by that as well. And remember that we're talking about, you know, the Brideshead Revisited University, and one which has educated numerous prime ministers and a lot of conservative ones, actually. Having said that, I think that, you know, a lot of children from very modest background do brilliantly there, and that's the message we need to get across, to encourage them to make that choice.
This is one for you, I suppose, Nabila. Stranded, the words of the Daily Mail, as your French fishermen managed to stop traffic in the channel.
Absolutely. Well, this is a fascinating Anglo-French story, as it involves thousands of British people in what is essentially an exclusively French dispute. And what's happening is that a few hundred fishermen, and really not more than that, are protesting about fishing quotas to the French government and the European Union. And they are currently blocking 3 ports. The dispute may be a fair one, but it's really the way they're getting about it that is quite archaic, frankly. And
it's a French hobby, isn't it, to strike?
Well, in France, demonstrators have the habit of taking to the streets, and in this case to the seas, and disrupt other industries, which is very unpleasant. And I know that the British ferry companies are trying to claim compensation from the French government.
P&O are losing £1 million a day, £1 million per day. They're not happy.
Not at all, and small businesses are also affected by the strikes. I mean, they're massively dependent on...
freight, yeah. Absolutely,
they're massively dependent on imports and exports, and in an already turbulent economic context, it means that these businesses can go bankrupt overnight.
Fishing quota story is something that affects every fishing community. It does appear in the whole of the East and in the European Union. And nobody seems to like it, but I suppose it's necessary.
Absolutely. I do really feel sorry for, you know, British holiday makers who's trying to come back home after, you know, the Easter break and the skiing breaks as well. And it's very unfair that year after year they seem to be taking hostages in similar situations.
Well, let's start with that story about Baby P, and the reason that we're not able to talk about the naming of this couple is that there is legal restrictions in place, which is lifted at midnight, and we're choosing to abide by that. Their identities have been kept a secret because of ongoing court proceedings, but they're now saying that they can name them.
Well, in my view, this is a classic example of the need to name and shame people, and it was deeply incongruous to see, you know, that we could see pictures of this beautiful blonde little boy who has, you know, literally been tortured to death, and yet nobody could identify who was responsible for this gruesome murder. And in any democratic society, justice should be administered in public. So, and this is what effectively has happened tonight, so I'm quite happy about the court's ruling.
But of course, if you went on the internet, you were able to find out just by putting, you know, Baby P's parents or Baby P's killers into a search engine, and the names would come up, wouldn't they? I mean, it does raise the issue of levels of control of mass media, but you're both united in thinking that this is the right thing.
Well, the fact that we could see names on the internet already is another reason why, you know, the names should be made public now anyway.
It is the taxpayer who will have to fund their protection when they are released from prison. The mum, and it could be as few years as 5. What are your feelings about that, Nabila? Do you think that's something we should be picking up the bill for?
Well, I think so, yeah, because I think we do have a responsibility to protect the public from people who committed such a gruesome murder, and as such, it's, you know, I think our responsibility to pay for our own protection.
Let's finish off with the Daily Mirror, Nabila. Peter, Andre, Jordan, I mean, they're fighting it out on the front pages.
Well, the saga continues, and I believe there's a lot of cynicism in the way they're acting, and it's clearly a well-orchestrated publicity campaign aimed in the end, you know, at making a lot of money.
Do you think there's going to be a reconciliation on the cards?
Well, it doesn't look like it, but who knows? Who knows? As I said, it's a well-staged campaign, and remember that these are, you know, larger-than-life showbiz characters, so, you know, anything is possible, really.